Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tales of the Unberechenbar. Yes, it's been a while since episode 2, but I did promise you an episode 3, and here it is right here. I'm talking to Cason Riley, the pride of the council estate, and he's here to tell us his story. Cason, welcome to Tales of the Unberechenbar.
Thank you very much. Tommy, I'm really happy to be here.
I'm glad to hear it, but as you've probably seen in the other episodes, I do like to start things a bit differently, but I always start it the same way for me. So we're going to go right back to the beginning, because as I always say, when you leave school, everyone's told to have a plan. So the question for me is, when you left school, what was your plan? Was it wrestling, or was it something else that didn't quite work out and brought you to wrestling?
So, I actually never really thought about wrestling until my early college days. I won't lie, I give it a try at a place in Leeds. It doesn't run anymore. I was there for 4 weeks before I called it quits because of school and commitments at the time, I just couldn't do it. Um, at college, I was studying video games, like the coding side and how things were programmed, like computers, all that type of stuff. Once I stopped doing wrestling, it didn't really cross my mind again. Um, I still watched it. I was still into it. And then as I got older, it always came to me like I wish I'd have carried it on when I was 16. Um, it wasn't until I got to university when I realised I was very close to an academy next to my uni building, a place called Preston City Wrestling, which many people know about in its glory days years ago. Quite a big company. Um, so yeah, I rocked up there one day when I was a fresher and started training, and that's just how I got started.
Nice. Right. Well, that's but that's cool that you actually had the academy right there on your doorstep, as it were. Because I mean, I've had a lot of people, especially in my last interview with J. Lewis. I mean, even he said he didn't know of any training centres in the local area. Now he's found out there's so many. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So what was you talked about PCW? I assume that was like your big break, then, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. So tell me how that got started. Getting into that, getting into PCW, getting into the business.
So when I was at uni, a little secret I didn't tell my family was I actually did pick Preston because I knew about the wrestling place, but I didn't know how far it was from the academy, from the uni. It turns out my uni building was a 15-minute walk from the academy. Um, I didn't actually know how to sign up. How I actually got in by accident because basically what happened was I was trying out for like like sports at uni, and you had your things like football, basketball, hockey, and I asked a guy called Carl Brown. I was like, "Do you know anything about pro wrestling?" And he literally went, "I used to actually help with the events for PCW," and he gave me Stephen Fludder's email and basically said, "Just email this guy," and I did. And he told me to rock down on a Tuesday night. I went down, I saw the coach, I saw the other trainees, and the coach was like, "Come back Thursday and see what you've got." Um, I went down on the Thursday night, and long story short, I absolutely loved it, and I didn't walk for 2 days after that. That's how I got started there. It is a very long journey from where I've come from. 'Cause obviously we got like pre-COVID and stuff, but my first few weeks at PCW were quite life changing.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But you bring up that it started pre-COVID. So how did that affect you? Going into like lockdown and that, because I know that from where I was, I'd been what was it, 2020 when it happened. So I'd been doing it just under 5 years at that point. So yeah, it hit me pretty hard to just have that sudden stop. So how did it affect you? I mean, were you worried that you might not get the chance to come back? Or did it dampen your spirits in any way? Just tell it from your point of view.
So just before COVID, I had a trainee match on what we call an open ring. I finally got a taste for being in front of a small crowd, getting to actually wrestle, and it was one of the best feelings in the world. I'm pretty sure you can agree, Tommy. Like your first match, there's never a feeling like it again. It's definitely special. Uh, getting to have that feeling, getting to feel like you belong somewhere, and then having it ripped away from you is by far one of the most heartbreaking things ever. especially when it's something not out your when it's out your control. And it was obviously like a global pandemic. Um, for me, COVID genuinely mentally nearly finished me off just because I was living by myself in uni halls. I was 20 years old. All my friends had gone home. I didn't think it'd last that long, so I stayed because wrestling was the only thing keeping me mentally stable at that point, especially with how stressful uni was. Um, it came to a point where university, I didn't really care about it anymore. I didn't care about the degree because wrestling had become something I loved more than anything else. Um, During COVID, it was quite hard because I think we were like a year and a half without wrestling. It was like what about a year and a half when things were closed. So I didn't get to do anything. I was also during COVID. I was at my lowest weight ever. I was 9 stone. I was really, really thin. Um, Once gyms and stuff started opening again, I knew I had to get back in there just to get ready for wrestling. It was the only thing keeping me mentally sane, and then to get ready for wrestling. Um, like it was the longest year and a half of my life because I spent 8 months by myself at uni. I didn't see my family for about 6 months. By myself in four walls. There wasn't much keeping me going, but the thought of getting back to wrestling was always something that kept me strong. Um, just mentally, just did me in. I didn't think I'd actually make it through COVID. Um, but then we started to do these online classes with our coach, which helped me a lot because we got to talk about wrestling, talk about our characters, talk about what we can do when we get back, and it gave me a lot of hope. If it hadn't been for those classes and getting back into the gym, I generally don't think I'd still be here to this day because it was just one of the lowest mentalist parts of my life. Um, but yeah, once things started opening up again, we were back on it.
Yeah, I know what you mean about those online classes because I did a lot of them with Steel City myself, and they do help you so much because you go for like so many weeks thinking, I'm not going to get any time in when I get back. If I do get back to the ring, it's going to be stiff as out. I'm going to get hurt. You just need to get some time more in, and then you get this call. Would you like to do these online classes over Messenger? And it is mostly cardio based because obviously there's only so much you can do, but it's movement based, it's cardio based, and it does build you up so much. And also interacting with other people in the wrestling community as well, and just seeing how they're dealing with it. And you realize that at that point, everybody needed somebody, didn't they? Everybody needed somebody to talk to. And yeah, I mean, those online classes really were lifesavers because I know, as I say, Steel City was doing it, UKW was doing it with Sid Phoenix. Who was it running yours?
It was Sheikh Al Sham at the time.
Yeah, see, it's just these good people that are actually thinking, let's keep the spirit alive, as it were. Right, and okay, coming out of lockdown, well, when did proper training restart for you, like at a training centre?
So once I think it was sports and musical theatres that were allowed to perform again. That's when we were given the all clear to start going again.
That's PCW.
Yes, yeah, yeah. We was because most wrestling schools are under performing arts, which is how we got able to go back to training. Um, but those first few weeks were just mental because none of us had trained for a good year and a half. Um, a lot of us were just throwing up during these cardio sessions. Like it was going to the point like where a few of us didn't think we wanted to continue it because of how much it had changed. Obviously we had the speaking out movement as well, so like a lot of our friends had vanished. Well, I say friends, but stuff.
People that you thought you could
Yeah,
trust.
yeah, pretty much. Things changed. There weren't people around anymore that I knew. There was a bunch of new people around, um, but a lot of us who still loved it, we stuck to it. Um, we even were asking for extra training sessions. We were going to different schools just to get more training in, just because we'd missed it that much. We just wanted to be back on it. Um, Especially for me, because like my uni classes were still closed, so I was just doing online stuff. So physically, I could put more time into wrestling and in the gym. And within about 6 months, I'd gone from 10 stone to 15 in weight. I've got a lot of photos and videos of me building myself up. Um, I was in the best fitness shape of my life, and especially with doing cardio nearly every Tuesday night at wrestling, just built me back up. I'd never felt so mentally fit ever. It was almost like COVID had never happened in a way. Or it felt like some sort of spiritual awakening.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It did coming out of the lockdown, especially, even though there was still like the threat of COVID and people were still pushing it a lot. Was coming out of that, it did feel like something completely brand new. It's like when, yeah, some people won't agree with me on this, but I'm likening this to like when you lose a family member, and I know this from personal experience. When you lose a family member, it feels like everything beyond that is a totally new life, and it's similar to what happened with COVID in that you sort of like had your life taken away from you. You were stuck inside. You didn't have control over what was going on, and then finally, when you get out of it, it's like something completely new. It's like you're a completely new person when you come out of it, and I think a lot of wrestlers felt that way. I think a lot of people in general felt that way. I don't think it was just in wrestling, obviously. But coming out of COVID, there were a lot of people that were reinvigorated, and you had new wrestling schools opening up. You had some, as you say, that closed down due to lack of business that really suffered during it. And of course, as we say, the speaking out movement that outed a lot of people that basically just, how can I put this delicately? The speaking out movement, yeah, yeah, they had to go. But in terms of the business itself, it outed a lot of people that then put a bad reputation on the places where they'd been. So yeah, it's just one of those things where we all had to band together and really try and keep that. Because I mean, the bad thing about the speaking out movement was it did end up getting hijacked by a lot of people who then tried using it for their own ends, and the people who had started it, who had got those names out there and got made the difference, they kind of became, I don't want to say they became a laughing stock, because the people who know that it was serious, but then there were others that hijacked it, that it in themselves became a laughing stock and made the speaking out movement a bit questionable, which it shouldn't be, because it did a lot for the business. Did the speaking out movement? It sorted out a lot of things, and I hope it's stuff that doesn't ever get changed, as it were. I really hope it's stuff that sticks around. Reasons, situations, rules that have been put in place that really should have been in place all along. And anyway, I'm ranting now. This isn't about me. This is about you. So, right, let's skip ahead a bit. You've been doing PCW. You've even been organising some of the open ring events, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. The open ring was something that I was given a little bit of trust in, and honestly, I think they have what have made me the wrestler I am today. Um, Before I used to organise them, another wrestler used to do them, but then I took over that role. And for me, it was more about making matches that I could help improve myself with, like wrestling people from the outside and just getting to see how they work, getting to put other wrestlers against each other to see how everyone else works, and being given that chance to prove myself was quite nice, because getting to wrestle on the open rings a lot is which is what led me to my main roster on the PCW. Um, my main roster debut was in the Road to Glory tournament, which is held every year. It's usually 3 shows long, and made my debut against Drill. Um, it was a lot of fun to work with. Uh, we had I think a good 9 minutes. I actually won that as well, like in my debut against someone like Drill, which was a very big honour, because I was terrified, and I was telling him this before like the match. I'm like, Drill, I know who you are. I'm absolutely terrified. And in his strong Wigan accent, he was telling me, "Oh, just chill out, lad. You'll be alright. It's fine. I'll look after you, lad." Such a lovely guy. Um, I was a babyface as well, and because a lot of the fans knew me from the open rings, I did have a little bit of a backing. And then once that 1, 2, 3 hit and the match was over and the crowd just erupted, it was just something I could never get back. If you look on my Facebook page, the cover is literally of me screaming and like celebrating, which I've actually got printed at home, because it meant so much to me with being like my PCW main roster debut. And honestly, it's been like a fever dream ever since then. I'm literally living the life at the moment.
Yeah, it's what you say about drill there. It does stand for a lot of us. Someone I talked about with J.Ro Lewis was like such as like Rabbit. You see him backstage totally different to what he is in the ring. Same with drill. Absolute nightmare looking in the ring. You meet him backstage, you can pick his brains. You can really get to know the business a lot from someone like him. And right, so another wrestler that you've got a good association with is JPR, former UKW heavyweight champion. But arguably, I mean, I've said this to his face, I've said it to a lot of people, arguably the most popular guy in UKW at the moment. Possibly one of the most popular guys in the UK wrestling scene, full stop, at the moment. But how did that relationship come about? Because I mean, I only found out when you joined UKW Ignite, and I was commentating on that, and JPR was always singing your praises, they were always talking up about you. But obviously I didn't know anything about your relationship prior to that. So could you tell us a bit about that?
So me and JPR, it was a bit of a funny one because I actually got a screenshot of his profile, and this was after I think I'd been wrestling for about a good 6 months. Back then, I didn't wear the jeans; it was just the denim shorts and the tattered shirt. And then somebody sent me this photo of JPR and went, "Oh, Cason, you need to look at this." And I went, "Oh my God, like that guy's literally wearing the exact same thing as me." Talk about gimmick infringement. And then I think how it went was I added him on Instagram, and like we both liked each other's photos where we both had the similar gear on, and literally one thing led to another. And we just started talking over Messenger, and we were just laughing. A little known fact: me and JPR didn't meet for 2 years until I came to UKW. We never met in person. Um, I'd always followed his UKW journey. I watched Wrestlebration live last year when he won the heavyweight championship,
Yeah.
which was live, and then literally like, I can remember like sending him like a voice note because I was so happy for him. But yeah, we were speaking for a good 2 years before we met in person, and it turns out he was actually never that far from me. I think he only lived like half an hour away. Um, and JPR is the reason how I ended up in UKW. Like I was when I finished uni and I moved home. Um, I was a bit nervous, a bit shy to come down to UKW because it was a new training school. I didn't know anyone. I didn't think I'd be let in. I didn't think anyone would like me. And JPR was like, no, like these are good, genuine people. Like they'll just let you in, and he were right. Um, but JPR is one of the guys who is a big inspiration to me. Like I've got so much respect for him. I've got any time at day for him, and just outside of wrestling, he's such a lovely human being. Um, I'd do anything for him.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say about UKW, that what JPR says there about we're all real people. You know, a lot of us have come up together, and we've watched out for each other. And the new people who come in, we try to watch out for them as well, because even those of us who have only been in the business a few years, we've heard all the horror stories about the people who are here that try to lord it over the newbies and all that, and none of us are down with that. Everybody, where we are right now, the UKW roster, I think it's the best UKW roster we've had in forever. In all the time I've been doing it, anyway. I've been with UKW for just over 7 years now, or just under 7 years, I should say. Or is it just over? Yeah, it's just over 7 years. I've been wrestling for just under 8 years, and yeah, and the people here specifically right now, we've heard all the horror stories, and we have made it a mission to make this place the best place for people to be as wrestlers, and we've spread that out to other places as well, because people will come down here and they will say, yes, my training center is exactly the same. We don't want any of that garbage in the wrestling business. We want to get it out. We want people to make it on their own. And there are so many wrestling schools out there like that right now. You got UKW, you got PCW, you got NSAW, and and GTM. They're all trying to push that extra envelope to get out there and get people to reach their full potential and not have to put up with the bullying garbage or the potential abuse that has hindered this business in the past. So, once again, sorry for the rant. Back to Cason Riley now. Right. So, you've been in PCW. You've made your way through the business. Been through the lockdown. Been through come back. Started doing the open rings. Met JPR, and now your debut for UKW on Ignite. I was there when it happened. It was cool. But tell us about that story. Not just the debut, but the whole journey. And remember, we've got plenty of time to cover this.
So my debut for UKW was completely by accident, and it was by chance. I can't remember who it was, but somebody couldn't turn up, and then the person who was meant to take over was injured. It turns out on that day I had my gear, um, and Tom Savage went up to Jonathan and was like, "Yo, this guy's here. Like, I know he hasn't been at UKW for long. I think I'd only been training there for like 2 weeks. So this was my second session, and he was like, he's from PCW. We all think he's really good. Give him a chance." And John was like, "Yeah, sure, go on then."
That's what I love about John Sedgwick. He's so laid back when it comes to something like that. It's like, guys, good. Yeah, let's give him a chance.
So I went up to John. I was like, "Do you want me to wrestle?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." And at the start, I won't lie, like I felt proper intimidated because a new place, I didn't know who this guy was, and he just looked at me and went, "Yeah, sure, go on." I went, "Oh, okay, I'll just go get ready." He goes, "Okay, yeah, that's fine, mate." So I go downstairs, um, and I shake hands with Remus Kane, who was my opponent for the night. Um,
Smashing bloke.
honestly, I love him to bits.
Outside of the character, Remus Kane is such a cool guy.
Yeah, um, and I looked at like the run sheet because this was mad. I've never been to a place that had like a full on run sheet, like down a wall. It was just usually you just get told by the booker like what you're doing, but there was a massive run sheet we could all see, and it showed me like where I'd been replacing. So I'm getting ready, and I didn't know what to expect, like because most places don't have like a major setup, but like this place does. Like you've got cameras, you've got 80 million TVs, you've got commentary, there's microphones everywhere. Um, you've got crowds. It's the music, everything is just like gorgeous here. It's just brilliant. So I speak to Remus, we plan our match and stuff. My music hits, and I'm like, this music does not fit my character whatsoever. So I'm like, how do I come out? How do I come out? And I just thought, screw it, let me just do it what I usually do. Came out, got a nice little pop. Was a bit overwhelmed because like I've worked other places before, but this just hit different. This hit really different. Um, so I came out, we had the match, ended in a no contest. Um, ended in a no contest, and I didn't think I'd be doing much after that. Um, I just thought I'd be doing the one and the done. I just thought I'll just do the one and done, and then I don't think they'll ask me to come back. Got backstage, people said it was really good. I went home that night, and then I got a text from like because I sent John a text the next day saying, "Oh, like thank you for having me. I really had fun. If you need me to do anything like camera commentary or anything, any way I can help out, I will. Just thank you for giving me that chance." And he went, and all he put back to me was, "Can't wait to see more. Thumbs up." And I feel like then I thought, you know what? I guess I've done some sort of good impression. Um, so every week I always say thank you to him every week. Because without him, I wouldn't get to do this as often as I do. He's given me so many chances. So the week later, I came back. He asked me to come back. Like he literally asked me like 2 days after. He's like, "Do you want to come back next week?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" Um, my second match on Ignite was against Jacob Reed, the current Genesis champion, and I'm like, they're giving me the champion, and I'm over. In my second match here, like it's my second match here, and I'm beating the champion, so they must have some sort of trust in me. And yeah, like the match happened. Bishop at the time was in a rivalry with Jacob. Came out. Jacob low blowed me. I fell. Bishop came out. F5'd him. I pinned him 1, 2, 3, and yeah, I just beat the champion in my second match. Um, but that whole story, like my first 2 months there, was brilliant because I ended up tagging with my now tag team partner Brett. Because I was part of the first ever pushing limits as well, which I didn't know was happening until like John told me when we want you to be on the first one. We like what you've been doing. You've been here every week, so why not? And then I was a bit nervous at this point because it was like my first ever like big crowd for UKW, especially with pushing limits. Um, so yeah, we had the pushing limits match, which was a tag match. It was me and Brett versus the Dogs of War, uh, when they were quite bad at that time. Um, yeah, me and
It means evil. It doesn't mean they were terrible.
yes, evil, evil. Let me just say that evil, because if Mercer listens to this back, he'll like, oh, same with Cliff. No, I had a lot of fun. Obviously, like me and Sebastian Mercer is a completely different story altogether. But getting to work that tag team match was so much fun. It wasn't overcomplicated. It was just right. The crowd were hot into it, and I think we went over the way it was the best to do it. Because they'd been bullying Brett for weeks, and it just made sense for Brett to get the pin. Um, but yeah, after that pushing limit show, then starts the very long feud of Cason Riley and Sebastian Mercer.
Oh yes, legendary.
5 month feud. I won't go into full detail, but those 5 months were just crazy. It was just me getting angry every week.
Full detail. I love this story.
Oh God! So we'll start it. It was me versus Bishop originally for the Genesis Championship. I'd made my way up the ranks. On Genesis Ignite, I actually counted this the other day, just in case this question came up. I was 18-0 on Genesis Ignite. That was in a row. I didn't lose any matches on Genesis Ignite, and it was just a big build up for me and Bishop. Um, a couple of weeks before Pushing Limits 2, um, Sebastian Mercer got added to the match, which he then won, and he captured the Genesis Championship after I hit the case in point on Bishop and he threw me out, which then sparked our rivalry because if I'd have won that match, it'd have been a completely different scenario. Um,
One thing that always got me about that match was even though Mercer got added into it late, it didn't feel wrong the way it went down either. It didn't feel like it was a last minute change to him winning as opposed to you winning. It actually just fed the story a lot more and built that story more between the two of you. Even just throwing the title onto Mercer, it didn't feel like it was like, oh yeah, this guy, we'll give him the belt just so he can then lose it to Cason. It actually felt like, yeah, Mercer is now the champion.
yeah.
And if Cason wants that title, he's got to beat Mercer. It's not like he's got to. Right.
I really enjoyed that, and Mercer really did. He earned that moment. Like he had worked his ass off all the way up. Like behind the scenes, I was so happy for him. Like, like I was just really excited for him. Because it was his moment, and at the time it made sense for him to win it. I'd just come up there, and I was making my way up that ladder. Um, Once Mercer had won the title, we went into a 5-month feud. It all started when he mentioned my parents' real life divorce, which I gave permission for him to do. It was actually my idea. Like I wanted it to mean something. Like I wanted us to do something in wrestling that, like, obviously most places do real life stuff, but I just thought you don't ever see it on the indies, not really, because people don't take it seriously. But the night that we did that line when he mentioned my parents' divorce, we got people talking. People like, because even when the cameras went off, I screamed at John, and like people thought this was like legit. Like people actually came backstage asking like, "Oh my god, what the hell happened? Like, are you serious? Like, is that really happening?" And I was just like, "What do you think?" And I remember storming out that night, and like me and Mercer were behind the building laughing. Like we just like fooled a few people because people actually thought it was legit, but that's what we wanted. Though we wanted it to mean something. Um, During this feud with Sebastian Mercer, I also made my debut for Showdown. Um, my first ever singles match on Showdown was on my birthday against Paul Hubris.
Yes, I remember that. Another classic match.
So when I read the sheet for that, it said Cason was over. Like I was over for the match, and I was like, "Yo, what?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're beating Paul. You're gonna roll him up, and he's gonna get really mad." And I went, "I'm beating Paul Hubris," and they went, "Yeah." I went, Nobody has really beaten Paul Hubris here, have they? And this is one thing for me. Like it wasn't like an ego thing. It was more of like, wow, they generally must see something in me to give me that type of win. And it was on my birthday as well, which was quite special. Um, like my 22nd birth, my 22nd, my 23rd birthday, I think. Yeah, my 23rd birthday. Yeah, my 23rd birthday, and I got to beat Paul Hubris, and just there wasn't a feeling like it. Like Paul was like one of the top stars, or like is one of the top stars, and he's such a wrestler, such a wrestler. Um, but going off from that, them giving me the rubbing away, I guess, for like it made me feel really confident in myself if they could trust me to do the type of stuff I've been doing here. It just felt like all the hard work I'd put in over years had given me something back. But I've always said like wrestling doesn't owe me anything. Like I owe wrestling everything for what it's done to me. Um, so me and Mercer, we had this 5 month feud, and it was just brutal. It was just us going ballistic each other for 5 months. Um, Going off of that, I had my feud with Leonie as well at the time because she was. Oh, honestly, like it were getting to points where even in real life I were getting wound up because of how into this story I was with me and Mercer. Getting to watch it back, I just thought, you absolute nasty bitch. Like,
She will love you for saying
I
that.
know she will because like
If
she
got you that wound up, she will love it.
like in real life, like because like even my friends and family watched it and they were sending me like messages saying, "Who is this bitch? What's she doing?" Like we're sick of it. We're sick of it, and I'm just laughing because like we must be doing our job right if people are getting pissed off. Um, but even going off on that, Leona is such a character.
Absolutely.
And as a heel, she's fantastic, and she's also, in my opinion, one of the most underrated females in the UK at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen Leonie from like the day she started, and I've watched her grow, build the character, build her skills, and what she is now, you would not believe it. Because when she first came on, she was so nervous, so green, and obviously green because it's her first day. But what she is now, she's built herself into such a star. And as you say, the bitch character, she plays that perfectly. I mean, it's to a point where even me as the commentator, even when I was a heel commentator, I was still having a go at her because the character is just so hateful.
Yeah.
And it works so well, but it worked as part of that as well between you and Mercer.
Leona, if you hear this, you're a bitch. Um,
We love you.
yeah, we do. Um, but even then, I feel like my feud with Mercer has been my favorite one so far, like ever in wrestling. Like I've wrestled a lot of people, I've wrestled a few big names, but I think the feud and the story behind me, Mercer, I think he's definitely my favorite person to wrestle. Not just for the moves we can do, but just for the stuff that we've done and for how we've played the story. It's just been fantastic. Um, we've also wrestled each other in a different company known as TNT Explosive Wrestling. And when we was at TNT Explosive Wrestling, we got to change the roles. I was the heel and he was the face, and we just put on we put like, in my opinion, and not to like toot my own horn, we had a really good match that night. Where even we both walked away, we were both happy, and it was just nice to play the role flipped where I was the heel and he was the face. So massive thanks for TNT Explosive for letting us do that because it was something different. Like nobody had seen me ever work heel before, and same with Mercer. Mercer never done face either, not really. And getting to tell a story from a different side, like from different sides, was really fun. And I think it added to our UKW feud a little bit because we both got to feel each other out, know what else we can do. Um, coming to the end of me and Mercer, our feud, everyone assumed it was going to be for the strap for the championship, but like I feel like we both knew in real life and for the feud, it had gone past us both caring about the title. It wasn't about the title anymore. It was about just two guys wanting to kick the living daylights out of each other.
Yeah, I mean that final match between you two, especially in the final match where it was the non-sanctioned match. I mean that was perfect because it had got so personal. It didn't need to be about the title. It was about blood. It was a blood feud.
It's definitely one of my favourites. Like even after the match, like we hugged it out and we both just said thank you because it was just something that we'd both been wanting to just finish off. It had gone to the point where it couldn't go much longer. Like it had to end there, and I think we got the big payoff. Obviously I won. Um,
Well, yeah, the way that had gone, it had to.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like that match, like I threw a chair at him. He whipped me with a belt. I whacked him with a kendo stick. He beat me up with a chair. I shattered a wooden board across his back. He choked me with a chain. Then I Cason pointed him with a bin. I just think the ending were just
Wrap the chain around your leg.
yeah. I hit. So the original plan was just use the chain, but then the crowd wanted the bin,
Yeah.
and then Mercer's crawling to me and he's like, "Cason," and I'm like, and I'm stomping him like, "What?" And he's like, "Use the fucking bin," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "The bin, use the bin," and I'm like, "All right, okay," and I'm still wrapping the chain just so it doesn't look awkward, and I put the bin on his head and I Cason pointed him with the chain and the bin, and it was just after the match had finished and I was on the ropes helping myself up and I put my head into my hands and that wasn't just character work, that was like legit. Like I was emotionally quite exhausted from it, but in like a good way, not like I'm glad it's done. I'm like, oh my god, we're finally done.
Just told the story.
We just told a story and I think it ended the way it had to end. Um, the crowd loved it. We got a bunch of good feedback. Um, I won't name names, but I sent it to a few of the NXT wrestlers who I'd met in previous, and they loved it. They gave me little bits of feedback, but they said it was a really good match, especially for how it was unsanctioned. Because getting to do an unsanctioned match while telling a story can be quite difficult if there's no like proper build or structure. But I think everyone knew. I think everyone in the crowd knew that night what we'd told and what we'd done, and I've got to say it's my favourite feud match I've ever done ever. Like, and that was like that had been building for my first Genesis like match. I think because I was always feuding with the dogs anyway, and to then go on with the one who turned on the dogs, it just felt like it'd come full circle. Like my entire UKW journey on Genesis was just me versus Mercer. Realistically, when you look back at it,
Yeah, it was a good one, though. Good little story to end your time on Genesis, because now, as we know, you're on Mayhem. Mayhem. Sorry, get a bit confused on those now. But yeah, you're on Mayhem now. You're in a tag team with Brett Sedgwick. Level up. And tonight, because we are recording this on the same night, it's Showcase of Champions, and they're going for the tag team titles. So good luck with that. Right, we're coming up to the end now. I'm just going to get these quick fire questions through. So from Connor Cage of NSAW, he has asked. Excuse me, I'm stuttering a bit. He's asked, what would you say has changed the most from the start of your wrestling journey to now?
I think the biggest change for me is definitely my confidence in myself and my pride. I definitely never had confidence when I first started wrestling. One thing for me was I had to ask everyone, was my match good? Did I do good enough? But now I've come to the point now where I think, you know what, I'm actually quite proud of myself tonight. I never went home proud, not until like the last few months. Um, the biggest thing has definitely changed was my confidence.
Yeah.
Like I always get nervous before a match. I think I've always said to myself, if I'm not nervous for any wrestling matches, then I should stop. I think you should always have that feeling of I'm nervous.
Of course.
I think if I ever lost that feeling, then I'd know to stop doing it. Um, but I can be nervous and confident, and now every time I get ready to do a match, I'm like, I'm gonna smash this. I'm confident I can do it. Whereas like back then, I was like, I can't do it. I'd freak out, like I'd feel sick and everything. But now I'm at the point where like I see who I'm wrestling on a poster, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Right, which leads us to the next question from James Bogg. Who's the best wrestler that you've worked with?
Oh, see, this is really difficult because like I don't think there is a best wrestler. I feel like I've learned a little bit. I've learned little bits from everyone. Obviously, I spoke about Mercer.
Yeah.
He's one of my favourites. But I wrestled Sam Gradwell once. It was after NXT. I think it was his first match after NXT, and we had a sausage roll past the parcel match. Um, don't ask. But it was a bit of a fanboy moment for me because obviously like I'd watched him on NXT, and I'd watched him because he was like a really badass heel, and just before NXT UK had ended, he turned face, and I got to work the face version. It was face v face. It was me and Dan Evans versus Joey Hayes, who is an absolutely incredible wrestler as well, versus Sam Gradwell. I didn't know this was happening until like I got to the venue. Um, oh, like, by the way, you're wrestling Sam Gradwell, and then Fludder just walks away, and I'm walking up to Fludder, and I'm like, who? And he goes, Sam Gradwell, pal. And I'm like, oh, okay. Um, and I walk back and I'm like, oh, shit. Sam Gradwell. Um, but no, he was definitely such a really lovely guy to work with. Um, like, he's definitely someone who I would love to work again, 100%. Um, but best wrestler, there's just so many because I've wrestled a lot of my best friends, and I've had really good matches. I'm sorry, but I can't give you a direct answer to that one.
You've given us a good enough answer there. Right, Rhiannon Campbell says, "Where do you enjoy wrestling the most?" I know you've told me that this is a hard one.
Yeah, this is really hard because I don't think I've ever been anywhere and been like, I hated wrestling there. I just want to wrestle and I enjoy it. I think for me, it's not the place where I wrestle; it's the people that I'm with. Um, like at PCW, I've got all the people who I came up with. Some of my best friends are there. But then at UKW, I see my friends Weekle here. I've got some of the best friends here, people who I go out with, people who I spend time with, get food with, because it's close. So like Leeds to Batley is very close, so I get to spend more time with them. Um, I had some friends in Stoke. I used to wrestle at Stoke. Friends who I used to have in Burnley. People who I've wrestled down south. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a dull answer, but I can't give you an answer for that one either because it's just like I don't have a best place. Um, like Rascals Wrestling Academy in Blackpool, like that's good because that's just me and my best friends giving kids the dreams really. Um, but no, I think every place tells its own little speciality about it. Um, like I'm pretty sure you can agree it's the same with Ensor as well. It's different places go off different vibes, but I've never had a bad vibe anywhere. So hopefully that gives you a good answer, and I'll let you decide where I love most.
Okay. From an unknown person, favorite Ignite moment.
Favorite Ignite moment: me versus Mercer, pushing them. It's four, just to finish. Just has to be. Like, there was just it's between that and my debut, but I think the ending, like my ending on Genesis, came at the end of me and Mercer. Like and it was like its own little book. And yeah, it was just the perfect ending. Um, Obviously in wrestling you can't always get the happy ending, but like I feel like my time on Genesis, after everything that I went through with the Dogs of War, Sebastian Mercer, Leone Rose, I feel like me versus Sebastian Mercer and just ending that match and the moment that we had was the best UKW moment I've had so far.
Which then leads us to our final question: the best rising star in UKW that you've wrestled.
Evan Knight, that's all I can say. The guy is 16. He's got something so special about him. Obviously, like I'm not taking away from people like Brett Sedgwick, Joe Sedgwick, and Sebastian Mercer. They're all absolutely rising stars in their own right. But for how young Evan Knight is, and for what he can do at this age now, I'm absolutely terrified to know what he can do in another 10 years when he's absolutely honed his skills. Like the guy's got everything you could want. And honestly, he plays the heel so well. I couldn't see him as a babyface. Like he is so easily punchable in the head. It is unreal. And even when I watch him back, like even in my own matches, like with him and other people, I just get so pissed off at him. Like he's got one of those teenagers who think they're always right at school and they think that they know it all. But other than that, he plays it so well. He plays it so well, and I couldn't be happy for him. Like he's going to smash these next few years because he's got such a good future ahead of him.
Yeah, I totally admit that. I mean, I love talking to Evan Knight backstage, and it's so cool. In training, he's a sponge. He takes it all in. But then, as soon as he walks through that curtain, I want to bitch slap that little boy. He's such a horrible person once he's through that curtain. Like you say, he's perfect as a heel. He does not need to change. He does not need to be a babyface. If people start cheering for him, he'll just say something horrible to them, and then they'll be back. They'll be back booing him again. But yeah, as I say, we've come to the end of the show now. I do want to do a part 2 of this because there's so much more I want to talk to you about, especially that little briefcase that you've got from NSAW. And we will talk about that on the next show. Ladies and gentlemen, from Cason Riley, Wildcard Tommy Dillon, this is Tales of the Unberechenbar. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back with episode 4, hopefully a lot quicker than we got episode 3 out. Bye bye.